listening to the Armchair Ninja podcast. Here is your host, Rich.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja podcast on Friday, February 19th, 2016. My name is Rich, and with me once again this week is my co-host, Bijan. How are you making out this week?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Doing awesome. We just got to watch another episode of Team Ninja Warrior. It's always a good week.
Oh, yeah. This was a fun episode, too. We had some really strong teams this episode. Oh, gosh. We'll talk about it later, but my dream matchup was so close to happening with the Doorknob Arch, but didn't happen.
Yeah, all kinds of cool stuff happened. Let's jump right into it. So we're talking about the 5th episode of Team Ninja Warrior. So let's run down who the teams were this week. We had Team Elet-trikz, that is Elet Hall, Dylan Gates, and Cassie Craig. Team Iron Grip, that's Sam Sand, Daniel Gill, and Rochelle Hepler. The Ninja Brittens, that's Jeff Britton, Jessica Britton, and Dustin McKinney. And finally, the Lab Rats with Michelle Warnke, Chris Wilczewski, and Brian Wilczewski. That's a lot of names we recognize from the show. It was pretty exciting to see this list.
Yeah, like all the teams had some really big strengths, you know. I feel like the teams with the really strong anchors, like the really strong team captains, the team captains are really strong, but they had some low lows in their team as well. Whereas the team that was kind of like the most evenly spread out in terms of skill rose to the top. And I feel like that's what we've seen mostly in this entire show, is that team placement and team choice really determines a lot when it comes to this.
Yeah, I thought lots of interesting strategy as far as, you know, choosing who to run when, and like this was probably the most convoluted episode as far as picking who to go at what point.
Oh man, that final relay. I don't know about that, but that placement. Ugh.
Yeah, it's a little strange. Well, we'll get to that one in a little bit. So the Doorknob Arch actually was a better obstacle than I would have thought, because we were a little iffy on it leading in.
Yeah, I loved it though, man. Oh, it was such a great obstacle just because it's very simple in many aspects, but it produces so much of a deficit when it comes to closing the gap in speed. You really have to have that arm strength. You really have to have that grip strength. And to be fair, this was the episode to have it because we had 4 teams that are very strong in the upper body. So I loved it.
Yeah, especially when you think about it, a couple of these women are rock climbers, very strong upper body, so it definitely didn't seem to be a detriment to them at all. They really killed it this episode.
Yeah, and a lot of these women on this episode were really impressive, man.
Okay, so looking at the first matchup, we had the Ninja Brittens versus Elet-trikz, and right off the bat, we have Dustin versus Elet Hall. Like, Elet seemed to opt out of that anchor position a couple times. It was kind of an odd choice where he's so good and so fast.
Yeah, it showed a lot of confidence in Dylan Gates, and Dylan Gates was really impressive of his own. So I understand why he made that choice. I wouldn't have done it because Elet Hall really is so strong in terms of the speed aspect of the game. But I understand that he had enough confidence in Dylan Gates to hold his own.
Yeah, we saw it wasn't misplaced because Dylan did really awesome. Dustin, however, had a really bad first run. Started off pretty good, but missing the cargo net, and he's 5'2". He can't afford a little mistake, right? He's got to get that perfectly. He can't try to just stretch it out.
He does not have the wingspan to do the types of risks that Elet Hall can do.
Yeah, so unfortunately that meant for a short run on the very first one.
But a beautiful wipeout, man. Oh my God, he face planted so hard.
He did.
I feel bad laughing at it, but it was so amazing.
Well, that was actually what I liked about it, is he laughed it off. He came out of the water laughing like, oh geez, what did I just do? Like he knew.
Yeah. Oh, it was great.
So after him, we had Jessica versus Cassie. And Cassie was one of the more impressive submissions we saw, one of the newcomers, I guess, when we did our review of Team Ninja Warrior before it started. We were really looking forward to see how Cassie would do this through this competition.
Yeah, I mean, she has such impressive accolades outside of the show. I was really seeing how she'd implement her athleticism, and she did not disappoint.
Yeah, and we've seen Jessica actually not too long ago complete a really strong course. Well, not complete a course, but do really well on a local competition. So we thought this was going to be a really great matchup. But Jessica ended up actually, they both really got tripped up in the cargo net, but Jessica ended up falling in the end, and Cassie completed it for the point.
Yeah, I mean, both of these women kind of showed an experience at the cargo net, just in terms of, trying to get your swing and everything. Cassie was able to adjust and figure it out, but I don't know, Jessica Britton, she really showed a lot of inexperience, or just, I don't know, she didn't really show off a lot in this particular episode, but I feel like everything we've seen of her accolades and all of her highlights were from later on after she did this. We have to remember that this was filmed way earlier in the year, where I feel like she's improved a lot. So unfortunately, I feel like this show or this particular episode didn't highlight just what she's capable of.
That's possible, and nerves could also be playing into it. We're not sure, we're not sure how much that plays a factor. Although she has competed on the show, both of them have. But yeah, it's hard to say. They both seem to get tripped up this time around, and we'll see how they do in the rest of the episode.
Yeah, man.
And then the big showdown, we had Jeff versus Dylan, and you kind of thought, it's a strange call to have the non-captain run, but man, oh man, Dylan can move.
Could say that again. It was like useful speed, right?
Yeah, he pulled way ahead, and then of course we were both kind of laughing as it was coming up to the doorknobs. It was like, oh, here comes Jeff hitting the doorknobs. Let's see what happens now. And sure enough, he just destroyed on them.
God, it was like, I don't know. Jeff Britton just makes these things look so easy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, like just hand over hand, just racing right through it. But his wet feet tripped him up on the warped wall.
Yeah. I really like the fact that they have the water with the cargo net, because this episode especially really accentuated just how much wet shoes can just add so much in terms of difficulty to the course. I really like these little tiny tidbits that they added to the course that probably when, planning the course, where a lot of people probably didn't even think about it.
Yeah, and speaking of, let's actually played a factor in the next race. So at that point, the Brittens lost all 3 rounds, so they got clean swept by the Elet-trikz, which I did not see coming.
Nope.
And when we look at the next round, we had the Iron Grip versus Lab Rats, and the first ones to run was Sam Sand versus Chris Wolcheski with his new purple hair. And for those that aren't familiar with Sam is 48 years old. He's the oldest competitor in Team Ninja Warrior, but it's just a beast, right? And they're both gym owners, which was kind of interesting to have them run against each other.
Yeah.
But the wet foot came to trip up Sam on the dancing stones. He had the same issue. You dip in, you hit the water, but it adds a layer of difficulty that I almost think American Ninja Warrior could allow a little bit of water splashes if it's going to add some added difficulty along the way.
Yeah, I feel like maybe getting wet in maybe stage 2 might add some added difficulty. I understand stage 1, the water placement is so much further underneath the obstacles, but maybe if they have an obstacle like the cargo net where it's so close to water, that can really add a lot of difficulty. Maybe stage 1 or stage 2, that'll be fun. Yeah, this particular matchup between Sam Sand and Chris Wolcheski, it was like my heart was battling my brain. It was like, my brain is, of course, Chris Wolcheski's going to beat Sam Sand, but my heart so wanted Sam Sand to do well. Yeah, it's heartbreaking, man.
Sam's such a great guy. He has such a great personality, and you just want him to do well on the course every time he gets out there, and he does a lot of times. He does really well, especially in like the qualifiers and the city finals. And of course, he always has he said the last couple seasons, the heartbreaking misses on stage 1, and all I want to see is him complete that. Like, he needs to get through the qualifying and city finals again, just so I can see him beat stage 1 next year.
Well, don't hold your breath on that. I don't know. I feel like a jerk saying that, but yeah, Sam Sand, I like him, but I feel like speed or agility and endurance is probably his weak points.
basically everything Ninja Warrior. Is that not? Did you just list everything?
I didn't say upper body.
All right,
the guy is strong upper body and stuff, but
okay.
A lot of the lower body stuff, not so much.
All right, so we had, after those guys, we had Michelle versus Rochelle. And Rochelle dropped the rope right off the bat, so which kind of made it looked like it might be impossible for her to move on, but she did manage to recover. And Michelle just basically was just a machine through the whole thing. There was no catching back up. She just went through the whole course, methodically, perfectly, up the wall, done.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about it. It was a perfect run from Michelle Warnke, but Rochelle, she held her own. She stayed cool in the during the race, and yeah, I got to give it up to her.
And from there, so there we had 2 points for Lab Rats, and it moved on to Brian Wilczewski versus Daniel Gill. Now, Daniel, I didn't realize until this point, was the team captain, which seemed a little strange for a rookie to be the team captain. So good on him that they felt that he had such a strong rookie year that he was able to take up that spot.
Dude, I was very happy Daniel Gill was it. I don't know. It didn't shock me too much. I mean, if Sam Sand was going to be the 2-pointer for his team, that'd be tough times for their team.
Yeah, but I didn't feel like you had to be the 2-pointer to be the captain, right? Because we had Jesse Graff.
Good point, yeah.
That wasn't. So, yeah. But it was kind of funny to... Anyway, you know what? It actually felt like a little bit of vindication for you and I going on about him so much this year. So it's...
Yeah, we did hype him up a lot. For me, what was more shocking was Brian Wilczewski getting the nod over Chris Wilczewski.
Like they said, I guess that was just kind of they're fairly evenly matched, and to have... Brian did better this season, so it's better to give him the nod, the more recent accomplishment, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it highlights the guys, and, the show, more than anything else, is about, giving more people the spotlight that you wouldn't expect, and, yeah, it was impressive.
So, Brian ends up missing the cargo net, and Daniel just blew through the whole thing. He just, front to back, just killed the whole course.
Dude, he was just flawless. He was just jumping into everything, but with the proper technique. From the offset, it looks kind of disjointed, or he's going way too fast for it to be proper. But his hand placement, everything is just perfect. So, this guy is on a whole nother level when it comes to speed. He was really, really impressive. Yeah,
if you look at him, how he skips over stones and everything, it seems reckless, but he's just so in control, you can't even really call it that.
Yeah.
So then we thought, well, who's going to go, is Brian going to run against him again? Because we had the tiebreaker now with Daniel winning it. But no, Chris Wilczewski went up, which was a good choice, I think. And then he just beat the other brother too. He just did an awesome job. There was just you couldn't fault Chris. He did a really good job, but Daniel just beat him out.
Yeah, Daniel Gill, legit was carrying his team on his shoulders at this point, and good for him, man.
Yeah, so that meant that Iron Grip got the win. And so then we went to... So because the Lab Rats had just lost, they get that awful spot where they have to go right again, right away. And they had the women run. It was Michelle versus Cassie. And Cassie ended up falling on the log grip, and we had to kind of rewind it there for a second to figure out what the heck just happened. How did that happen? And it was a perfect demonstration of what you talked about in the last episode.
Yeah, I mean, they legit had a close-up slow-mo of everything I was saying last week. I was like, vindication, yes, there it is. So anybody that wants to see an example of everything I was talking about when it comes to the arm grips and placement of those log grips, just rewatch this. They have a close-up slow motion, and it just shows everything I was talking about. Her arms are really straight, barely on the grips, and as soon as it dropped, she had nothing to take that impact.
Yep. And so that meant that the Lab Rats got the point. And this was the other surprise when Elet decided to run second this time, and Chris Wilczewski ran against him. And
this was fun.
Oh my God, that was like an amazing. This was probably the fastest out of all the ones randoms we saw. This might have been the fastest. I would be interested to see the actual times, but
yeah, man. I mean, Chris, like, he really had to like kick. Like, I feel like he knew he had to kick it into high gear because he was going against Elliot Hall, and I'm pretty sure he saw Elliot Hall earlier, being like, "This dude is fast," and I gotta really give it up to Chris Wilczewski because Elliot Hall, I was expecting that kind of speed, but Chris Wilczewski really was just flying through these obstacles in a way that I really wasn't expecting from him.
Yeah, I mean, they took off like a shot. Like the two of them, probably the fastest start we've seen from anyone, and it didn't let up. They just went through the whole thing at this breakneck speed, and I kept expecting Chris to kind of get tapped out with Elliot, just being used to that speed, and Chris maybe not quite as much. Yeah. But no, Chris just straight out beat him.
Yeah, not just that. I mean, he did the warped wall without any breaks, and like, I don't know, that from everything I've seen on this show, that seems like really, really difficult to do, especially when you're flying through the this course at that speed. I mean, really big props to him for doing that warped wall without any breaks.
Yeah, so from there we went on to Dylan versus Brian in the 2-point round. And Dylan was just killing it like he had done previously, and he ended up going out in the dancing stones. Like, Dylan, oh my God, he had a huge lead, and he just took this unnecessary risk, and it really kind of killed him in the end.
Yeah, man, I mean, it was unwarranted. I understand taking risks on the dancing... Well, I wouldn't do a risk on the dancing stone. I do a risk on any other obstacle. But I understand doing a risk if you're maybe neck and neck or behind. But he was like way ahead at that point. There's no real reason for going for it. I guess maybe he just got really excited or something. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think just, being in parkour, maybe he's just used to just taking the longer jumps and everything else and not really thinking much of it. And just underestimating the distance, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Didn't they say it was like a 10-foot gap? I think Akbar said.
I think that's what they said. Yeah,
like you don't see it on the show, but 10, like, geez, that's that's really tough to do that kind of gap and then be landing on an unstable surface.
Yep. Yes, it is. So with that was the end of the Elet-trikz. That meant the Lab Rats were moving on to the finals. And so then we moved over to Dustin versus Sam Sand. And Dustin ends up beating him up the wall after our first failed attempt. There wasn't much to say about this one. Sam did a good job. He just wasn't quite as fast as Dustin. He ended up just losing out in the end.
Yeah, and when they both went up to the warped wall, I was like, all right, it's going to matter the most about cardio. And, I really hoped that they'd catch their breath. They did a cutaway, and I feel like both of them took an extended rest, which was probably for, like, really smart thing to do. And I think maybe just, Dylan had a little bit more in the gas tank at that point. Or Dusty. Sorry.
Yeah, they call them both, actually. They always end up spelling it out, Dustin. But then you'll hear them call him Dusty a lot of times.
Yeah, I was just saying Dylan, and I'm like, no, that's the other guy. What's his name again? All right, sorry about that.
I missed that you were calling him Dylan. I thought you said Dustin. Anyway, moving on, we had Jessica versus Rochelle. And Jessica ended up going out on the dancing stones because her feet were just absolutely sopping wet at that point.
Oh, man. They had a really cool slow-mo view of it. It was kind of like art in the air, just her flying through the air, kind of like that. But it sucks. I really wanted Jessica to do well. Yeah, not much to say. I feel like she's better than that, and I think we'll see maybe next or this later this year that she's much improved.
Yeah, it was sad to see her go out, but I completely agree. That was a very majestic fall. It was very cool in the slow motion. And so then we had the final. We had Jeff versus Daniel. It was like the epic showdown.
Oh my God, I was so ready. This is what all I wanted this entire episode was Jeff versus Dylan on that damn doorknob arch. I was like, dude, this is going to be amazing. I wonder who's going to beat it. Like, Jeff Brittens is, the go-to Popeye guy, but Dylan was really impressed. Why do I keep saying Dylan?
I don't know. You're stuck on the name Dylan.
I'm about to lose my mind right here. I'm sorry, everybody. Like, I might have a seizure or something. I don't know what's going on.
Everybody's Dylan.
All right, Daniel versus Jeff. Daniel was really impressing me this entire episode with how fast he was, so I really wanted to see that showdown.
Yeah, and then we ended up getting Jeff going out on the dancing stones, unfortunately, just trying to go too far. So,
it sucked. I was so mad. I was like, no. Oh, well.
I'm glad to see, so after that was said and done, that meant that Iron Grip was going to the finals versus the Lab Rats. But they cut over to the interview afterwards, and it's been pretty consistent along the way, but I feel like Jeff's face kind of said it all, that, yeah, we didn't make it through, but this was absolutely a blast. Like, they had so much fun. It didn't, having the direct head-to-head competition didn't take anything away from the sport. There was still a great sense of camaraderie and fun to the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a really good point, man. Just looking back, I was seeing all of the competitors smiling throughout the entire episode, or just in general, like the general vibe of this entire show is they've really had a fun time. And yeah, looking back, I would love, I'd imagine anybody that's in athleticism or any type of sport like this, I feel like doing it with a team is a little bit more fun. And while you have more added pressure on you to make it up for the team, you also have that camaraderie and, alleviation of not having all of the pressure on you or all the eyes on you. For instance, like when you're just doing American Ninja Warrior, everybody's just looking at you, and every mistake you make is kind of like, how do I put this? When you're running against somebody, your mistakes, even though it elevates the mistakes and makes it a bigger issue if you kind of fall and you lose it for your team, but at the same time, it's kind of forgiven a little bit more also.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. So rather than having it be striving for perfection, right, you have to do everything flawlessly and having that weight on your shoulders. It's go as fast as you can. And if you fall, well, you fall. But it's just basically how well can you do when the pressure's on, and just basically pushing yourself to that extra limit.
Yeah, man, you're much better at saying it than me. Yeah,
so
that's exactly what I was saying.
Which makes me all the more excited for next week, but we're going to get to that in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Moving on to the finals, we had the relay that is Iron Grip versus Lab Rats. So they went with the standard women run first, Michelle versus Rochelle. And from there, in the middle of the run, we had Daniel versus Brian. We had the captains running in the middle of the pack.
Dude, we got to talk about this.
All right.
What the hell were they thinking?
Well, it's not so much of a strange choice there. It's that by doing that, it meant that Sam was running the last leg for Iron Grip, which, it's hard not to be too surprised. I mean, Chris is, really solid, so that it's not too surprising for the Lab Rats, but...
Yeah, I mean Daniel Leal's team.
Yes. Go ahead and say your concerns, because I think even in the commentary they were kind of hinting at it being a strange choice.
Yeah, I think Akbar was kind of like, you kind of hear in how he's wearing, he's like trying to make up excuses of like why this placement was happening. Yeah, I very much question why Sam San didn't do the second part of it, because Sam San is very capable of doing the doorknob arch and or at least from what I've seen in previous iterations of American Ninja Warrior, he's capable of doing the warped wall, no problem. And you'd have to imagine he won't be as winded as he would be doing the entire, earlier part of the course. So I feel like when you're the very last part of the relay is the most extraneous part of the entire thing, and for me, you have to really be fast. And I would understand if Sam San was able to do I forget the name of what they call the final obstacle, but that last obstacle where you do the not the salmon ladder. What am I talking about? The spider wall to the arm to the rope climb. I don't understand if he went very fast on it, but he was just doing a moderate pace on it. So I question why Daniel Gill didn't do it and really catch up that time, because I'm pretty confident that Daniel Gill would have killed it.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It was an odd choice. It seems like it may have been the wrong choice, but then maybe there's something we don't know, right? There's always that factor that we weren't there. We weren't there to know that, Sam, maybe, we saw that he did fail on the warped wall. Maybe he said, this one's, the shape of this one, maybe it's just, it was a little different maybe than the one that's on the show, so he's not sure if he can make it up it. If there's any question around that, then they would have had to make it that decision to run in that order.
Man, yeah, it's got to be something like that. I don't know. What was your initial take when you saw it like that? When you saw Sam doing the last part?
Yeah, I didn't think it was necessarily a deal breaker, but it just seemed like an odd choice. So I was anxious to see what happened. So when we look at what actually did happen, it seemed to go pretty much as you would expect it to go. Michelle was a bit ahead over Rochelle. Rochelle did really well, but Michelle did actually have a bit of a lead on her. Then Daniel was able to not only catch up, but get to pull ahead a little bit of Brian through the second half of the course, or the second leg of the course. And then in the end, Chris just beat Sam up the final part. I mean, Sam did respectably. Props to him. He did pretty well, but Chris just beat him out.
Yeah, I mean, Sam did surprise me. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I just question the placement. But yeah, some things to take out of this. First of all, the salmon ladder technique that Wojcicki did, we saw it highlighted in one of our videos of the week, and now we have a name for it. I believe it was a Wojcicki swing. Is that right?
Oh, no, I was thinking it was Wojcicki flip. I didn't think to write it down.
Oh, man, it was something like that. They had his name in it, so at least we know who pioneered that technique. Maybe he was part of Wojcicki's gym and was just doing that particular form in it. But it looks really cool. Also, Wojcicki was Chris Wojcicki. Well, both Wojcickis, but Chris Wojcicki in particular was quite impressive this entire episode. He ran pretty well.
Yeah, especially like I said, that run against Elet Hall, I call that like the run of the night. If I had to pick one, that was
Oh yeah.
Come to think of it, Palm Wonderful picked a run on the first night. I'm almost sure they did, and they haven't picked one since.
Interesting. I haven't really seen like extraneous or gratuitous like advertising from Palm on this particular show.
Oh, you know what? You know what I'm thinking of is USA versus the World. Forget that. Scratch that whole thing. Yeah, I'm thinking USA versus. I actually picked one for USA versus the World.
Okay, because I was about to say, like, on American Ninja Warrior, you see Palm everywhere, right? I was like, I'm not seeing it here, but maybe.
Yeah, I'm just losing my mind.
Yeah, it's one of those nights. I'm calling everybody Dylan.
Yeah, exactly.
You're Dylan to me, man. What's up?
What up, Dylan? Everyone's Dylan from now on.
Yeah, for real.
So then we look into next week. So that means that Lab Rats are moving on to the finals. So my prediction was right. Go figure.
And mine was very wrong.
I'm, 1 for 3 now?
Not good signs for Team Real Life Beast.
Speaking of, so next week we're looking at the Real Life Beast. That's Drew Dreschel and James the Beast McGrath. The Invincibles. That's Abel Gonzalez's team. Party Time. That's Brian Arnold's team. And the Runaways. That's Jamie Ron, Captain NBC's team. Man, that's going to be a good week. I cannot wait to see next week's.
That is a fun match. Oh, yeah, that's going to be fun. You're in for like some really, really fast runs that episode.
Yeah, and it's even beyond the speed. These are just fun competitors to watch, right? Like these are performers.
Yeah, they got a presence, right?
Yeah, so it should be really interesting to see some of these runs.
Yeah. So we all know my pick. It's going to be Real Life Beasts. They're my pick to win the entire show. But who's your pick for this particular episode?
Oh man, I got to pick somebody else, really.
Yep.
All right. If anybody's going to pull it off, if anybody's going to do this, I feel like the Runaways can probably do it.
All right, that was my choice. That's what I was saying. I'm like the team that I would pick other than Real Life Beasts would be Runaways. They're pretty strong.
Yeah, Yeah, so we'll just we'll see how this all pans out next week.
Yeah. And shout out to all the women on the show, man. Oh, they've been so good. They've really been impressive. For this particular episode, Rochelle Helper really stood out to me.
Yeah, and actually, I think it's Hepler.
Oh, Jesse Craig, too.
Rochelle Hepler. I called her Helper, too.
Hepler.
Yeah, and it's so easy to do. And I'm pretty sure it was misspelled when we originally got the list, so that's probably why.
Yeah.
But yeah, I noticed that when we had gone through the reviews of everyone, that the ones that stood out to me the most as the most surprisingly, the ones that really, how do I want to say this? The ones I was most impressed with that I hadn't heard of before were all of the women athletes, and the show is proving that to be still true, that there's so many strong female competitors, and the ones that we know are still showing how strong they are, because you look at who's made it up the warped wall consistently, it's all of the ones that have done it before, right? We did have one more added to the list, Tiana Weberly, but beyond that is all of the names we're used to seeing do it, right? So we've seen Michelle Warnke do it a couple of times this episode, but we also get to see Jessie McGrath and McGrath. Did I say McGrath? But we get to see Jessie and Casey and Megan. They all did it again, right? They all proved that it wasn't just a one-time thing with them. They can do it consistently. They are the strongest females in the competition.
Yeah, they're the strong ones, but I also feel like all the females that we're seeing on this show, it's kind of like a new generation or new breed of athlete that we're seeing, and they're they might be a little less experienced than the go-to ones that we've named off, but I feel like the months that they're probably training, during the off season right now, I feel like they're really going to make a big impact when we come up with the next season of American Ninja Warrior, and I think that's where they're really going to stand out, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, it's funny. So when you look at how many of these women started because of Casey's epic run, not this past season, but the one before, they're now getting that experience, and they had a chance to try these competitions, and they're getting their legs under them. They're getting up to speed on what they need to do and improving all of those, because there's such a need for perfection on a lot of these obstacles that they're getting to that point now.
Oh yeah, and I feel like more than any other season, I think this upcoming season we're gonna set a new record for women that go up the warped wall. I genuinely feel that. Yeah,
I feel like this is gonna be the season where we stop counting.
Yeah, that's even better. I would be all for that. Yeah, good point, man.
All right, so then looking now at our video of the week, this time we had a submission. I don't know if it was specifically for video of the week, but Barclay Stockett sent us a video that she wanted to share with us, and it was a 100-foot long high beam cross, she called it, and it's absolutely amazing. Dangerous as all get out, but amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of like seeing like an amazing I don't know, like dangerous stunt in many ways. She is really high up there, but it's really impressive. Like just seeing her, I like how in the video she kind of takes her time. It's not like something where they kind of gloss over the difficulty of it. It's like she takes her time, and you just see her doing it. And in my mind, at least, I'm like, when is she going to have trouble? When is she going to fall? Are they going to have padding underneath her? Like, are they going to catch her? How's this going to happen? And she just takes her time, does this insane like long climb over the entire, I guess, roof almost of this building. And trust me, this is a very big like building warehouse. It's not like some small climb that she does. And she does the entire, it's just amazing. I don't really know what else to say to it. you just got to watch it to see just a genuine feel of how high she is and just how good she is at doing it.
Yeah, so I guess a description would have helped there too. So thank you for including a little bit of that. So yeah, she just basically picture like the metal beams that hold up like a big warehouse type structure. She climbs one side of the gym up the wall to the ceiling, and then almost like the I-beam cross that we've seen a on the show, she scales the ceiling. Now, she did send me some follow-up emails when I had gotten back to her and said that the first 15 feet were over a foam pit. And when she completed that, she decided to keep on going. And she thought, if she got to the 30 or 40 foot mark, and she started to feel a little tired, she would just turn back. But she felt good, so she kept going. And,
oh my God.
Yeah, just kind of crazy. So there was padding down, but it was not really sufficient for what she was doing.
Could you imagine the cameraman like at the point where she keeps going? And he's like, there's no padding underneath. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like imagine somebody doing a trapeze without a net underneath them, basically. So she said, just to be clear, it's very dangerous. And she said she's not encouraging or challenging anyone else to do the same, because she does acknowledge how dangerous it was, but she just thought she should share it with us. And we do thank her very much for sharing it. So if you want to check that out, we'll post a link in the show notes. I'm going to host it up on our website because it's not a YouTube video for once. So we'll host it so people can check it out and see what she was able to do.
Yeah, very amazing, very cool to do. And don't worry, I don't have any plans of ever doing anything like that.
All right, good. I'm not hosting this alone.
Yes.
So if you'd like to learn how to like to work on your grip strength, if you're in the market for some climbing holds, come by our website. That's ninjapodcast.com. Click on our link for Atomic Climbing Holds so they know we sent you there, and use our discount code of podcast to save 10%. So if you have a video that you'd like to share with us, you can send it to rich@ninjapodcast.com, or you can send us a link on Twitter. We are @ninjapodcast. Or you can reach us on Facebook as well. Thank you once again for listening, and I hope you have a great week.
Deuces.
A special thanks to Kathleen Martin for the song Player v Player Remastered from bandcamp.com.
Thank you all for listening and have a lovely day.